how do you make money from photography? And as you left your job, how are you making money for real? Hey guys, my name is Demas Rusli, and in this video we're going to be answering some of your questions that you asked me through my Instagram stories a few weeks ago. So before we get started on the Q&A, I just want to give you guys a bit of a life update on what I've been doing the past few months. So as a lot of you might know, I used to work in an architecture office and I worked there for 5 years, and in the last few months, maybe the last 3-4 months, I actually quit that job and I'm a freelance photographer. The reason behind quitting was because when the pandemic started, because I was part-time at the architecture office, they asked me to take leave indefinitely, and it ended up being about 2 months of leave. And in that 2 months, I just tried to focus and see if I could do photography full time, to see if I was still going to be making money, to see what I would be doing just at home, if I would be productive or not, or if I could still create. I tried pushing more YouTube videos, I tried pushing more TikTok videos, as well as posting on Instagram as well. So I tried to do all that in that 2 months, and turned out it was completely working for me, and I was happy, and I was having so much fun at home creating. So after that 2 months, I went back to the office for one day, and I was sitting there and I just completely hated it. I just didn't want to be there, and so I literally just quit the next day, and that was it. And now I'm a full-time freelance photographer, and in the past few months I've been really enjoying it so far. So that's a bit of a life update on my end. So let's go through these questions that you guys asked. I'm going to be also putting like timestamps on the bottom here, so if you guys are not interested in a particular question, you can just skip over to the next one. Alright, so let's just get started. The first question is from @_bren.dan. Was the transition from a typical 9 to 5 difficult to a freelance job? I think for me, like the actual transition itself wasn't as difficult, but it was the whole foundation of it and the whole build up of getting to where I am today was a big grind and a big challenge. So I've been doing photography for the past maybe 7 or 8 years now, and working with clients for the last 3 to 4 years. So just the build up of that, and knowing that I'm able to earn enough money from photography alone and not the double income from photography and architecture. Once I was secure enough with that income from photography, letting go of the architecture job was a lot easier for sure. So the transition itself wasn't difficult, but it did take a lot of build up and groundwork and foundation for me to get to where I am today. And so it didn't just happen overnight, it took me about 7 or 8 years to build up. @smo.orme asked, did you enjoy your time working as an architect? I really did enjoy my time. The office I work for designed some really cool and amazing buildings, and I was super lucky to be involved in a couple of them. I learned so much there too, like not just working in architecture, but just like office culture and like timeliness of replying to emails and all this stuff that you learn in an office that you wouldn't get the experience somewhere else. I found that it was really good experience and I enjoyed it. And also the people that I was working with in the office was really fun. I became really good friends with them. And yeah, I was quite sad to leave, but I think moving to full-time photography was the right move for me, because I think there could be so much more and so much potential that I could not have achieved if I was still working in architecture. The next question from James.A.A photography and Royd_Rin. How do you make money from photography? And as you left your job, how are you making money for real? So I can only speak here from my own experience. So I can put my income from photography into 5 categories. I'll list them out first one by one, and then I'll go through them each what they mean. So the first one will be brand deals and sponsored content, then creating content for brands and clients, image licensing, workshops, classes, and live streams, and passive income from like YouTube or affiliate links or stuff that I sell on my store. First one is brand deals and sponsored content. This means that a brand would come and approach me and they would ask me to promote one of their products, and then I would create some content to post on my Instagram or YouTube or TikTok. At the moment, this is probably the biggest chunk that I get from income, because a lot, or if not all, of my work comes through Instagram. I currently work with brands such as Samsung and Adobe, and in the past I've worked with other brands such as Nike, Adidas, and even like airlines like Cathay Pacific, and car companies like Ford or Lexus as well. Next would be creating content for brands and clients. So this means a client or brand would come and contact me, and they would ask me to create content that they could post on their own social channels or their own websites or wherever they want to post them. I've done this before as well. I created content for Adidas Instagram page. I used to shoot for a company called The Fifth Watches, where I would just shoot some watches every month and supply them with a bunch of images every month, and they could do whatever they want with the images. Image licensing is the next thing. So this one is if a company or a brand approaches me and says they want to use one of my images to use for their own marketing purposes, so then I would charge a licensing fee for them to use it. And the fee depends on where they're going to be using it. Is it going to be a website, in a magazine, on social media? You also have to think about how long they want the license for. So is it a year, 2 years, indefinitely, forever, and so on. There's a really good resource that I've shared before in the past past. It's the Getty image calculator. I like to use that to sort of get a base look at how much image licensing costs. And so I'll link that in the description so you guys can have a look. Next would be from workshops, classes, and live streams. So I've done talks and live streams and courses before with brands and like camera brands or tech brands. Because of the pandemic, I've also done live streams with Adobe through like Zoom calls. And yeah, and I get paid for that as well when it's with a brand. I'm actually also thinking of starting a mentoring program, like a one-on-one mentoring program. We can talk about anything: photography, editing, social media, freelancing, anything you want. And it'll be like a monthly sort of service. And if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments. And yeah, I'm hoping to launch that soon. I've been thinking about it for a while, so hopefully I can launch that soon. Next is passive income. So this is quite like maybe the smallest side of my income, and it'll be like coming from YouTube monetization. So at the moment, because this channel is still very small, I'm getting like nothing from YouTube at the moment, but I mean, it's still something. And affiliate links. So if you go through my website and go through like the gear page and you click on one of the items there, they're all affiliate links. So if you purchase something using those links, I get a cut and you don't need to pay anything extra. And yeah, so that's a great way to support creators if you're looking to buy a certain type of product. And also prints and presets, which are also on my website. Yeah, if you want to check out my prints and presets, I'll also link them in the description so you guys can take a look. Next question is @Covelli asks, when you started out, how did you gain clients? Did they approach you after seeing your content, or did you approach them? So because I was working in architecture for the last 5 years, I actually didn't have time to reach out to any clients. And so my whole business model as a photographer has always just been like creating content for myself and creating passion projects and pushing my own work on my own channels. And back then it was just Instagram, and then sort of just waiting for a client to come. And because they see my work and they see that I've grown a lot on social media and Instagram, then they would approach me and ask me to create content for them. So I've actually never approached a client before. It's been working, so I think I'm just going to keep going and pushing that way, that method. I also feel like if you just wait for the client to come, you kind of have a little bit more wiggle room to have your own like artistic approach to the content you make. Whereas if you're the one approaching the brand, then they probably usually might want more from you in terms of like probably paying you less or giving you less creative freedom in the work. So that kind of stuff plays a role. But I mean, there's always different ways to approach brands, and there's no right or wrong way. And if you're happy to do the work, then that's great. @JoannaWilson_ asks, how big was your following when you started working with brands and companies? I think I was about 20k on Instagram when Adidas reached out to me. They reached out to collab for the new NMD shoes that were coming out. They literally just emailed me and said, we'll give you a pair of shoes and can you post 3 photos on your Instagram? And I just said yes, because that was my first time and I was super excited that Adidas reached out. And I think just starting from there, it really gave me experience on dealing with clients, working with brands, and then it kind of got the ball rolling. And yeah, I think from there, it kind of snowballed into like Nike contacting me, and then even New Balance and Puma. I also think that it doesn't really matter what number following you have. It's to do with the actual content that you make. If a company sees your work or manages to stumble upon your work and you only have like 1,000 followers, but your work is amazing, they're still going to reach out to you to want to work together and create things together. If you're on like 50k, but your work isn't as amazing or doesn't line up with that company's vision, then they're not going to reach out to you. So if you really want to work with a certain brand, you need to show that brand that your work suits their aesthetic. And you have to do that through your own passion projects and your own photography before even getting paid first, because they want to be able to see your portfolio and your work. RK Pixels asks, I'm having trouble with finding paid gigs with photography. Any tips would help? Thanks, man. And Chageng MS asks, is it a good idea to do free shooting to build up a portfolio, especially if you have no network? So these two questions relate very much to each other. And like I said before, I think doing free work is completely fine as long as you're happy to do it. If you're not happy to do it, then you shouldn't do it. If you have no experience working with brands, if a brand reaches out to you and you respect the brand and you like their products, then why not? Go for it. Not only will it help you gain experience, build a portfolio, and also give you insight on how to deal with brands. So if another brand approaches you in the future, you can show this work and be like, I want to be paid X amount. And you have sort of that experience of working for free and seeing how that works. So yeah, I think it's a good idea if you're just starting out to do things for free. But obviously if you're doing things for free, you should be able to set your own terms, because you shouldn't be pushed to do crazy amounts of work that you don't want to do as well. Chava Jose asks, what was your first ever camera? So my first ever camera was actually my phone camera, which is an HTC Legend. If you guys watch my other Q&A video that I've made, I talk about how I got into photography, and on that day I was actually shooting on an HTC Legend phone because that's all I had. And then a a week later, I bought my first DSLR, which is the Canon 1100D, because I fell in love with photography so much. At 2RAFD asks, I know you probably get this a lot, but what is a good DSLR to start with? I think any camera that fits in your budget is going to be completely fine, as long as there are manual functions. So if you can learn ISO, shutter speed, aperture, and master that on any camera, then you can use any camera. It should be fine. I also think that maybe getting a camera that can interchange lenses is also really good, because then once you learn how to use a certain lens or a certain focal length, a certain aperture, you can invest in another lens, for example, with like a higher aperture, so you can practice your depth of field and do different types of effects with your photography. So it doesn't really matter what brand or what camera you pick, as long as you're out there and shooting and creating. I think that's the most important thing, because once you can master a camera, you can pretty much use any camera and it'll be fine. And if you keep pushing your work and start getting clients, then you'll be able to invest in another brand. But yeah, even with a phone, it's fine. Just go out there and create and shoot and get as creative as you can until you push that gear as far as you can, to the point where you can comfortably say that you need this new lens or need this new camera because of this certain function that you can't do with your other camera. At fueled.by.travel asks, I am only a beginner, so I don't want to spend money on an editing tool or app. Any good free editing apps? For this, I would say on your phone, you can get Lightroom Mobile, which is free to a certain degree. And then there's also like other apps like VSCO and Snapseed. And then if you're talking about editing video, there's Adobe Premiere Rush on your phone, which is free as well. And on the computer, you can use Windows Movie Maker or iMovie to learn how to cut videos and just learn basic video editing as well. At Andres_RVSG asks, how was your overall quarantine experience? Any struggles, or did more ideas come to you? I think for me, I've actually just used the last like maybe 3-4 months to just dig deep at home and edit old content that I haven't edited before. So I had so much to edit there, and I was also focusing on YouTube and TikTok. I was posting like 3 videos on TikTok in a day for like 3 weeks straight. And in that time, after I posted one of my videos, I actually grew 130,000 on TikTok in one day. So that was very interesting and a good experience for me to just see how much content I could make and push my boundaries as much as I could. And I actually really want to make a video about TikTok very soon, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I think my overall quarantine experience was fine, because I just switched to becoming a full-time photographer, and everything was still really exciting, and I was just making as much as I could. But I hope everyone out there, you and your families, are all safe. And yeah, I hope everyone's still also creating and being creative while they're at home and quarantining as well. So at Luthera asks, what advice do you have for photographers that are just starting out? I think the best advice I could give is to just shoot as much as you can with whatever tool you have. The more experience you go out shooting, the more you will learn. And Leslie the activist asks, best advice for people starting up a photography business? I think the best advice here would be to build up a portfolio through either Instagram or a website, show clients your work, so networking, and try to connect with people that could potentially lead you to future jobs. So all that kind of stuff is really important when you're starting a photography business. At iPranoj asks, what are the export settings that you use in Lightroom for IG? I literally don't do anything special when I export out of Lightroom, so I can literally just show you here. So I'm literally just gonna right click, hit export, and then I just leave the settings as default. So I pick 100% quality JPEG. I don't change the size of it, I just leave it as what it is. And then I keep the DPI at 300. That doesn't really matter, you can change it to 72. Yeah, like I think there's lots of other videos that I've seen who say you should make the settings, 1080 length or width, or yeah, for me, I just don't really do anything. I just leave it as big as it is, and that's it. At Not Alan asks, how do you grow your Instagram, and also how to find locations? So in terms of how to grow on Instagram, I've actually written a blog post on how to grow on Instagram, so I can link that in the description as well. But basically, the main tips are to just focus on creating good work. How do you make your work different to other people? And you have to question why your content would make people would want to follow you. So what sets your content apart from others, and how are you pushing the boundaries of creativity? All that plays a part in growing an Instagram, but also there's also the social aspect of it. So commenting and sending DMs to people, meeting up with actual people to go out and shoot together. Because Instagram is a social media app, and TikTok and YouTube, everything a social media app, it's about being social and about commenting on each other's works and supporting people you actually like. I really don't recommend, spamming or commenting non-genuine comments or asking other people to follow you or check out your work, because I find that really sort of devalues your work. Because if I'm going to stumble across someone's feed, which is really amazing, I'm going to be more excited to follow them. But if someone's trying to shove their work in my face and go, hey, look at my work, follow me, I already, I think anyone as well, already don't really want to look at it as well. Keep focusing on your work, don't compare yourself to others, and push your creativity as far as possible and try to be different and try to create new things. Yeah, I think that's the best way to go on Instagram. And in terms of how to find locations, if I see a photo on Instagram that I want to know the location for, I literally just maybe send a DM to the actual person and they might tell you. If I'm traveling and want to find a location in another location, I would literally just Google something. Like let's say Google San Francisco staircases, and there's usually like an article that someone's written about like the best staircases in San Francisco, or the best photo spots in San Francisco or Los Angeles or wherever you're going. You can just do that, or even looking at Google Maps. If you already know like geographical area of a certain place, then you can just walk around on Street View and try to find that exact location. At Tommy Odyssey asks, how has Instagram changed when you started? Is it harder now to build an audience? I think Instagram has changed a lot. Now the app is like, you can do so many different things that it's kind of becoming confusing. You can like post a photo, you can post a video, you can post a reel, you can post stories, you can highlight your stories, you can post on IGTV. There's just so many different things that you could do on the app. Back in the day when I first started, it was literally just posting one photo of a square and that's it, and you just post squares all day. But now you just have to post like carousels, and there's just so much more that you need to do. And I guess that's why it's probably harder for people, because when you're starting out, you don't expect to put out as much content as other people who are already experienced. So I guess that's maybe a reason why it's harder to grow, because yeah, you really need to set yourself some time to create all these different things and use the app in lots of different ways. In terms of building an audience, again, I think it's probably harder now because, you know, everyone is a photographer these days. Everyone has a good camera, everyone has a good phone to shoot on. And so differentiating yourself with other people is much harder today. And I guess the Instagram algorithm also doesn't really help, because it's not really pushing out new creators and new people as much as I would say TikTok, because TikTok kind of has a different algorithm where it pushes like the For You page, which is the explore page. And so you can find new creators much easier. Yadi at JPEG asks, how do you balance Aki life with a regular posting creation schedule? In terms of balancing your time, I think it's all about prioritizing and giving the time that you want to give to photography. So if you're really busy with uni or work and don't have time with photography, then you don't have to. But if you really want to push your photography and create more photography work, then you should. So for me, when I was still working in architecture, my day would be like, I would go into the office at about 10 o'clock, and then I would work to about 6:30, 7 o'clock. And then I would come home, have dinner, hang out with my wife, you know, watch a movie, watch Netflix. And then when she goes to bed at about 11 or 12, then I would start editing my photos, and then I would create content for the next day or the next few days till about maybe 2 or 3 a.m. and then I would sleep and then again start the next day. And in terms of making the content, I would do that on the weekend usually, or when there's a holiday. But yeah, so like you just try to manage the time and give enough time to what you want to give. If you really love photography, then you will definitely prioritize it and give time to it. At Conan Photography asks, what was the hardest hurdle for you to overcome in growing your career of photography? And Project Whatever asks, tips to be more creative and keep you motivated. I think these two questions link a lot, because I think the hardest hurdle for me is, like I said before, like keeping motivated and keep creating, and how do you innovate, and how do you push more content every day, and how do you not stop and just like, you know, relax. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest challenge for me in the last 8 years, is to like not stop. I don't think I've ever taken a 2-week break off Instagram in the last 8 years. I used to post every single day, sometimes more than once a day, and then I dropped it down to about 5 days a week. And then at one stage when I was like really pushing TikTok and YouTube, I dropped Instagram to about 3 times a week, but now Reels has come out, so I've been still also posting every day. But I think it's all about enjoying it, right? Enjoying the process and thinking about why you started and why you create content and why you even pick up a camera and shoot, take photos or edit. And that's sort of why I think you can stay motivated. When you think about why you started and why you think photography is fun, then it just all becomes fun again. All right, so now to end this video, I'm just going to do some rapid fire questions, because these questions that you guys asked are quite quick to answer. Steve Nangsani asked, which part of Indonesia are you from? I was born in Jakarta, Indonesia, and I moved to Sydney when I was 7 years old. At Rob_Indrajaja asks, how often do you travel before COVID-19? I think in a year, like the last 2 years, I travel about 2 to 3 months a year, so about a quarter of the year. And that's a mixture of photography jobs and also holidays that I go with my wife and friends as well. At Tristan Alvaro asks, how do you make a website like the one you have? So the website that I have, I use Wix.com. I'm not sponsored by Wix or anything. I just use it because that's what I found first when I was making my first ever website. It's literally just like selecting a template and then interchanging the images so it's your own, and then you customize it and make it your own website. At Vaxons asks, are you gonna get the new A7S III? I really want to get the new A7S III, but at the moment my A7R4 is good enough, I think, to make video, but once I get better at making video and maybe find the need to use the A7S III in the future, then I'll maybe pick it up. Unman Shahid _77 asks, how to master the grip on Photoshop and Premiere Pro? The best way to master it is to just use it. Try to use it every single day. Try to make something using those programs every single day. And that's the best way to learn something, right? To just keep using it and keep doing it and keep practicing. And the last question here is at radiant.pixels, is it good to try some new stuff and still call myself a photographer like Photoshop or Creative Style? I think it's really good to try new things because then it'll just broaden your skill set. Like, people ask me if I still call myself a photographer even if I Photoshop a lot of my work. I still call myself a photographer because the things I'm photoshopping are photos that I've actually taken myself. I think that's the difference between like a photographer and a digital artist, because a digital artist grabs stock photos and then edits them and makes new work from that. And that's completely fine. If you're trying to learn Photoshop, then using stock photos is a great way to learn and improve your skill set as a photographer. So yeah, I think the more you try, the better it is for you as a photographer to build your career, to build your skill set as well. Alright, so those are all the questions I'm going to be answering today. If I didn't answer your question, I'm really sorry. Hopefully I can answer them in the next one. But a lot of the questions I've also answered in previous Q&A videos, so I'll try to link them somewhere here. I don't know where it is. But yeah, if you have any more questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll definitely answer all of them because I answer all the comments. If you have any suggestions of videos you want me to make in the future, also drop them in the comments. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to see more coming soon, hit that subscribe button. As always, thanks so much for watching, and remember to always push your creativity to the next level. Bye!